It's easier to blame the addict. That's just the harsh reality of our justice system. And when something goes wrong, when a case gets messy, it's always easier to point the finger at the person struggling with addiction. They make the perfect scapegoats. Who's going to believe them? Who's going to fight for them? Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, that's exactly what's happening here. This case isn't about justice. It's about a prosecution that needs someone to blame for a dead police officer. And Mal Davis, my client, is a man struggling with addiction, and he makes the perfect scapegoat. Mal Davis is a 28-year-old man battling addiction since he was age 13. He's tried to get clean 3 times, failed 3 times, not because he didn't want to, but because his addiction is a disease that doesn't just disappear because you want it to. And that night, Davis was doing what addiction forced him to do, trying to survive another day, trying not to be sick tomorrow. But to understand what really happened, you need to see it through the eyes of the state's own witness, Officer Ron White. It's 7:30 p.m., March 12th, 2020. And Officer Ron White meets his mentor, Officer Pete Mills, at Chili's restaurant. Mills is older, more experienced, has 8 years in narcotics. They order dinner. They have a drink, maybe 2, but Officer White is watching. And what does he see? 3 scotches, 4 scotches, a couple of beers. Mills is drinking. Mills is getting loud. Other customers are complaining, but Officer White doesn't stop it because Mills is his friend. He's his mentor. By 11 o'clock, an informant approaches Mills. Mills comes back and tells them they're leaving. Right now? Yes, we're going to make a big buy, arrest a drug dealer named Jelly. And Officer White hears something that should alarm every police officer. Don't call for backup. Don't tell anyone in the department. This is a drunk cop going rogue at this time. But Officer White gets in that car. They wait at the meeting spot. An hour, 90 minutes. Officer White watches Mills get angrier. The frustration is building and the alcohol is working. No dealer shows up. So Mills says, I know somewhere else we can make a buy. And he tells Officer White to drive to Magnolia Terrace, a drug corner. This is the moment Mills stops being a police officer and becomes something else. A drunk man with a badge looking for someone to arrest, looking for a scapegoat. So they arrive at the parking lot. Mills gets out, approaches a group of men, and within seconds, Mills is in a shouting match. Officer White has to pull Mills away, has to stop his own mentor from getting into a fight at 2 a.m. in the morning. And that's when Officer White sees him, a man out of nowhere, Mal Davis. Officer White has never seen him before. Mal Davis isn't part of my plan. But Mills, drunk, angry, frustrated, asks Davis if he wants to sell crack. Now understand what Mal Davis sees. He sees a white man who just got into a screaming match, a man who's drunk and pissed off, and Davis recognizes him. That's Mills, the narcotics officer who was always pushing people around in their neighborhood. So when this drunk, angry cop orders him to get into the car, what choice does Mal Davis have? Does he say no and risk getting arrested? Or even worse, beaten? Or does he do what addiction teaches him to do and comply? Survive. Officer White drives them to Walker Street. He watches Mal Davis borrow Mills's phone, make a call. Mills told him what number to call. Mills gave him the phone and Mills ordered him to make that call. They get out. Officer White stays in the SUV and he's watching. Mills and the dealer Atkins are talking and negotiating. Mal Davis, what is he doing? He's standing a few feet away, not talking, not negotiating, and not touching any drugs or money. He's just there because Mills made him be there. Officer White hears Mills yell, "Now you go to jail, sucker." And Officer White hears Mal Davis say, "Are you fucking crazy? Those aren't words of a criminal partner. Those are words of someone who just realized he's been used. 2 shots and Mills falls. Mal Davis runs. Why? Not because he's guilty, because he's terrified. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer White's own report tells you what happened. Officer White saw Mills drinking heavily, 3, 4, 5 scotches. Officer White saw Mills go rogue, refusing call for backup. Officer White saw Mills get into a fight in a parking lot at 2 a.m. in the morning. Officer White saw Mills order Mal Davis into that car. Officer White saw Mal Davis standing apart, not participating, not dealing. Officer White heard Mal Davis say, "Are you fucking crazy?" And Officer White saw Mal Davis run for his life. It was Ed Atkins who pulled the trigger. Ed Atkins is serving life without parole. But the prosecution wants more. They want someone else to blame for Pete Mills's recklessness, his drinking, for his decision to grab a vulnerable addict off the street and coerce him into disaster. They can't punish Mills, he's dead. They can't punish Officer White because he's one of their own. So they need someone else, and Mal Davis is the perfect scapegoat. But addiction isn't malice. Desperation isn't intent to kill. Being sick and trying not to be sick tomorrow doesn't make you a murderer. What does it make you? Vulnerable. Vulnerable to being scapegoated when the system needs someone to blame. And as you listen to the evidence, I ask you to remember 3 things. First, remember that addiction is a disease, not a choice to commit murder. Addiction drove Davis to that parking lot, but it didn't drive him to plan violence. Second, remember that being coerced by a drunk police officer doesn't make you guilty of that officer's death. Davis didn't choose to be there. He was ordered there. And third, remember that justice means following the evidence, not just blaming the easiest target when a police officer makes a fatal mistake. The question isn't whether Davis is an addict. He is. The question isn't whether he was there. He was. The question is whether the prosecution can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended to participate in a violent felony. They can't, because he didn't. Because sometimes the most vulnerable become scapegoats for tragedies caused by those in power. And when that happens, justice means protecting the vulnerable, not sacrificing them for a drunk officer's fatal mistakes. Mal Davis didn't deserve what happened to him that night, and he doesn't deserve to pay for Pete Mills's violence now. Thank you.